Okay, so hello. It is Tuesday. We are here for Facebook Live. It's Victoria here from Inspiration Den. The kids are den building, so I can't get in the tree room to do my Facebook Live, so I'm up in the bedroom tonight. I hope you're all doing okay. Last week, here we go. Last week we were talking about gratitude and gratefulness practices and why it was so important for us to do those things generally as well as specifically right now as well. We also talked about some of the different ways that we can practice gratefulness and gratitude, and that was quite good. I hope that was helpful and useful for you. So if you have tried any of those out during the week, do let me know. Pop it in the comments. Let me know what you tried. Let me know what worked well. Let me know what you enjoyed, because that's really interesting for me to know what works well for you. And it's also really interesting for everybody else to read the comments and see what works for you guys as well. I briefly mentioned last week about negativity bias, and I said I would explain that to you a little bit. So that's what we're going to talk about today. However much that we have developed and evolved over time, there are several parts of our brain and ways that our brain work that are still the same as in cave people times. I'm trying to say cave people times. Okay. One of these we call negativity bias, and this just basically means that our brains are pre-programmed to focus more on the negative things than the positive things, okay? And if you go back to cave people times, see, I can't say it again, times. Why do I want to say terms instead of times? I'm trying to say times, T-I-M-E-S. It does make sense, because we needed to be very aware of the threats around us for our survival. If you think about saber-toothed tigers and that kind of thing, rather than looking at the beautiful view over the valley. So, you know, in terms of our survival, we had to be aware of the threats more than the lovely positive things. Okay, so it was really, really important for our survival. And to some extent, it is still important now. You know, the threats are very different, but we do still need to be aware of the threats around us. So maybe think more like crossing the road as a pedestrian or driving through traffic, that kind of thing. We're not looking out for saber-toothed tigers anymore, but we still do have threats to our survival, to our staying alive, basically. The problems occur when we spend too much time exposed to this threat spotting, and also that we perceive trivial things as potential disasters. So things like falling out with your colleague or partner, for example, or bumping the car, or, you know, just a minor bump in a car park or something, you roll into somebody or something like that, or somebody bashes your wing mirror off. You know, all these small things that happen to us, we perceive them as being big threats to our survival, and really they're not. They are upsetting, they are inconvenient a lot of the time, but they're not a threat to our survival. You know, they're not a life or death situation. They're not going to make any difference to whether we live or die. But our brain still thinks that it is, and that's why it reacts accordingly. So however much, again, just to recap slightly, however much our brains have developed in lots and lots and lots of ways, there are certain bits of our brain that still react and still behave in ways that they used to do in cave people times, okay? So Rick Hanson, who is a neuropsychologist and a very famous mindfulness teacher, he describes this negativity bias as our brain works as Velcro for the negative. So all the negative gets stuck really easily to the Velcro, and like Teflon for the positive, so it just slides away. So if you imagine a Velcro suit, for example, and you're throwing tennis balls at it, they're going to stick. So the negativity is the tennis balls, and you throwing them at the suit, at the Velcro, and they're going to stick. You know, we're going to remember them, we're going to focus on them. That's going to be where our mind is working. Whereas if we had a Teflon suit, something like think of Teflon is like what you have on your ironing board cover, I think, and various other things like that. But it's slippy, it's smooth. If you're throwing tennis balls at that, it's not going to stick at all. It's just going to slide straight off. And that's the way it works for positivity. They're not important for our survival, so our brain doesn't think they're important at all. And we obviously know that that's not true, but the part of our brain that is in control of that is that's what it believes. Okay. So this explains why the vast majority of news that we have is negative. So obviously the news on the telly, the news on the radio, social media, magazines, anything like that, all the newspaper websites, it's all focused around negative news. And that's because it's important for our survival. You know, we need to know about things that are potentially a threat to us. It's important that we know about these things, but it doesn't give us a balanced view of the world. It's also why it's the first thing we talk about when we get home. Somebody says to you, oh, hi, how was your day? How did you get on? The first thing you'll say is all the negative things. Oh, somebody cut me up in the traffic, or someone was really mean to me today, or oh, I did really badly at this, or, you know, all those things. It's all the negative things that we say first. And it's only perhaps once we've got that all out of the way that we maybe start move on to some of the positive things. And it's not that everybody does this every single day, but we are more prone to do that. Okay, that's kind of how we naturally are. So basically then, that leads us to the next point. So we need to make a conscious effort to redress this balance. So we actually have to put some effort in here. We need to make a conscious effort. We need to put some effort in to redress the balance between the negatives and the positives. Now, the negatives and the positives are not going to change because we put this effort in. Our lives will still run pretty much the same as they do, but with us making a conscious effort, we can redress the balance so that we actually notice more of these positive things and that we don't focus on all of the negatives. We can have more of a balanced view of our life. And it might be more of a realistic view as well, actually, because when we're focusing either too much on one end of the scale or the other, it's actually not truthful, really, is it? It's not realistic, and it's not an honest reflection of our day or our time. So trying to consciously redress the balance is a really great thing to do. The gratitude practices that we talked about last week will make a big difference here. They will be great, they're a great starting point to try and start to redress this balance between the negatives and the positives. So if we can start to be grateful for all the very small little things that we have going well in our lives, and it can be just literally the tiniest of littlest things, like if you were out on your walk, for example, and you saw some beautiful flowers. It's just a really small thing. They don't even have to be your flowers. They could be in a neighbour's garden. They could be, you know, if you just walk past the park, for example, just some public green space. But, you know, just noticing them, just taking a moment to stop, to look at them, to savour that good moment, and just to really connect with nature and to really notice and take that in. We've had some beautiful weather the last few weeks, and we can be really, really grateful for that, because that means that we can get out in the garden. It means that we can go out for a walk, and that makes a great difference to our well-being and to our physical health and our emotional health and all of those things as well. So many people are always grateful for their first cup of coffee in the morning is often a one, isn't it? A lot of people survive on coffee. I don't drink tea or coffee, so that's not one for me, but I know it is really important for a lot of people. You know, they are very grateful for their first cup of coffee in the morning. It makes them feel very human, and makes them wake up and be able to start the day and all that kind of thing. For me, I really like chocolate. It's a really big thing for me. I don't smoke. I don't really drink alcohol very much. I don't do drugs. I don't have coffee, I don't have tea, I don't really have a lot of fizzy drinks, but chocolate is my really big thing. I'm not really fussy about sweets or that kind of thing either, but yeah, chocolate is a really big thing for me. And I try not to eat it during the day too much, and save a little bit for a treat later on at night. So often when the kids have gone to bed, straight down into the kitchen and get my bit of chocolate. And I'm so grateful for that, you know. I love that little bit of treat time later on in the day, and it's something that I do have to say I look forward to, and I'm very grateful to be able to have that. So yeah, I don't know quite where I was going with that. There was a point, but I forgot it, and I put it on about chocolate for a while. So where was I going? So, oh yes, I was talking about making a conscious effort to redress the balance. Of course I was, yes, absolutely. So the gratitude practices are a great starting point for that, and also there's a few other things that you can do as well. So trying to limit the regular news is a really great thing to do. Generally, But especially now, I think if you can just limit some of the news intake that you're having, can make a big difference. It's important that we know what's going on in the world, and I'm not saying don't watch any news at all, but I think limiting it to maybe once or twice a day, just checking in with what's going on, is a really good thing to be doing. Because I think if you're bombarded with negative news 24/7 and you keep checking in and you're wanting to know all the time and you're getting the updates on your phone coming through as notifications and things, it's too much negativity all the time. So limiting that is a really good thing. We are tending to be just watching the 10 o'clock news currently, which is actually working really well for me. So I'm not listening to any of the television news during the day, I'm not listening to radio news during the day, I'm not checking news on my phone, anything like that. And we're literally just clocking in with the 10 o'clock news at night, and that's our one a day catch up with what's going on, and that's absolutely enough. It's more than enough. So that one is a really important thing. And trying to find some positive news is a really good thing. So there's a website, and I think they do a physical newspaper called Happy News, and that's a really lovely concept to redress this balance. Go and check out the website. I'm sure it's just, if you Google Happy News, it will come up. I think they also do a printed newspaper or magazine or something along those lines. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely a thing. And it just gives you another option to what's going on in the world. You know, not everything in the world is negative. There's a huge amount of negative, there's a huge amount of positive, and there's a huge amount of everything in between, all the neutral stuff that comes in the middle. There's everything going on, isn't there, all the time in all the places of the world. So do have a look at the Happy News, because that's a really good thing. Also things like Russell Howard's Good News, which is a TV programme that he does. I don't know if there's a series on currently, but it is quite an ongoing thing that he does, as far as I'm aware. I know there's been quite a few series. So if you maybe find that on, I don't know where that will be, I don't know if it will be on Netflix or iPlayer or somewhere like that, one of the streaming services, you'll be able to find Russell Howard's Great News. It's not one for children, I think he's a bit of a swearer. So don't watch that in front of the children, maybe when they've gone to bed, or if you haven't got kids in the house, then go ahead. That's a really good one to look out for as well. And there's lots of sort of happy magazines and mindfulness magazines and that kind of thing around, and you can get access to some of that content on their websites as well. So if you have something like a e-reader, that's what I'm trying to say, I was trying to think of the non-branded word for it. If you want one of these electronic book readers, you can, or on your tablets as well, I think you can get magazines to read on those. So have a look for some Happy News magazines and things like that. So that's a really good thing to do. So I think that was mostly what I wanted to talk to you about negativity bias. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense to you now, and hopefully that explains a little bit about why our brains work the way they do. I do find neuroscience quite interesting. It's something that we studied on our mindfulness teacher training course that I did. And yes, neuroscience was one of the things that we talked about, but it's really, really interesting. It sounds like it's very scientific and very scary, and it can be to some extent depending on what you're reading, but you can find a lot of information in plain English, that's what I'm trying to say, in plain English, in quite simple terms to understand. And it really does explain quite a lot about how the brain works and why we do the things that we do sometimes. And it is really, really quite interesting. So have a look for Rick Hanson if you fancy. He is a neuropsychologist and also a mindfulness teacher. He is very famous and well renowned in the world of mindfulness and neuropsychology. There's a lot of meditations online, so I think if you Google him or YouTube him, you'll be able to listen to some of his talks and listen to some of his meditations, and he'll kind of explain some stuff. So yes, if you find that interesting, then that would be great to have a Google, have a research, have a look at. Opie says, yes, Kim and myself walked past the Cube today and I stopped her to look at the amazing tulips. I love tulips. that have come out in front of the cube. If you head that way, please stop and take a look. Yeah, if you are local to us, we are in Corby in Northamptonshire. Our big building in the centre of our town, where our library is, and we have a theatre in there and all the council offices and things. They're all in this big building called the Cube. In town, and they've got these beautiful tulips outside apparently. I'm sure lots of you that are local will be able to walk and go and have a look at the tulips outside the Cube, so that will be really lovely. I love tulips. While I'm on the subject, do you remember when we went to see the sunflowers in that field that we had to drive around in circles for a while to find? They have got tulips at the moment, and I was going to suggest we go and have a visit, but obviously we can't go currently. They've got tulips in their field at the moment, which is really lovely. So I do keep seeing it. It's called Overstone Grange Farm, and it's on the way to Northampton, I believe. So if you check them out on Facebook, you can at least see the photos of all their tulips, which is lovely. So they're really pretty. They've got lots of different varieties, lots of different colours, and what they have been doing, because they can't have people there obviously, when the flowers are ready, they've been picking them and putting them in bunches, and they've been giving them out for free to key workers, which is really kind. So that's lovely. So that's Overstone Grange Farm, I'm sure it's called. But yeah, have a look for those and like their page because they're fabulous. Oh yes, live for chocolate, absolutely. I love chocolate, and I love kiddies chocolate, you know, like curly whirlies and chocolate buttons. I love Rolos. I love dairy milk. I love the caramel ones. I love Cadbury's chocolate mostly, I have to say, but I will go for anything if I'm desperate. I really like a twirl. Twirls are really good, aren't they? Ooh, you can see I haven't had much human contact because I'm just wittering about chocolate. I don't have any particular political views on Boris as such, but I do hope he's okay. I do. I think at the end of the day, whether we agree with what he's doing or whether we don't agree with what he's doing, whatever our views are, he is a human being at the end of the day, and we should all wish him well. I believe his partner, girlfriend, is pregnant and he's got young children, so, you know, they don't want to be without a dad, do they? And she doesn't want to be without her partner. So I think we need to bring it back to that human level and just say, actually, you know, he's a human person, we're all human people, and we should want the best for him, for his health and his happiness, as well as everybody else. So there you go, there's a lesson for you all there. Okay, so we've talked all about negativity bias today. We've explained it, we've talked all about it, and we've talked about a few things that you can do to start to redress the balance. We talked very briefly about gratitude practice at the beginning, just to recap what we spoke about last week. So let me know if you have been doing any of those gratitude practices. Let me know if you've tried loving kindness meditation, which went really well with the gratitude practices. So I really hope that you're all okay. I know this is a tricky situation for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but please, please, please just take each day as it comes. If you're feeling a bit wobbly one day, just take it really steady, really easy. For most of us, there really isn't too much that we have to do each day. You know, if you're trying to work from home, then I know that's a little bit different. You know, you do kind of need to try and get on with your work if you can. But for a lot of us, you know, it's an ideal opportunity for us to slow down, for us just to take a deep breath, focus on what's important, and let everything else just go for now. Please just try and take it really steady. Be kind to yourself and be kind to all those around you. Just think about priorities, what needs to be done. You know, we just need to be fed, we need to be watered, we need to be rested, we need to keep exercising, and we need to look after our health and our happiness and our well-being, okay? And everything else can wait. Okay, so take care of yourselves, take care of all those around you, make some phone calls, make some video phone calls. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. That was really, really lovely. I hope you have enjoyed listening about negativity bias and chocolate and tulips and everything else that we've witted on about tonight. It's lovely, just nice to have a chat, isn't it, really? I will see you very soon. As always, my inboxes are always open, always happy to have a chat. I've had a few tearful chats the last couple of weeks with people, and hopefully you know, we managed to put a smile on each other's face by the end of the chat, so that's quite a nice thing to do for each other, isn't it? If we can all do that for each other. And please check in with each other as well, so it's not always got to be me. although I'm very happy to, obviously, but check in with each other as well. So if you can think of other people that you've met at Warriors that you have a connection with, at Inspiration Den, at Walk and Talks, at anything we have going on, you know, do check in with each other as well as all your other family and friends. Yeah, just keep in touch with people because it's really, really important. Okay, bye everybody. Take care. Love you lots. Bye.